So welcome back to the part 2 of our revision class. This is the part 2 of the revision class for the Math 303 Communication Research. In our first class, we discussed the citation, the reference. In this part 2 class, we'll be looking at how can a researcher determine the topic you have settled on is significant and relevant. Remember in our class, we said for you to know that your topic is important or worth investigating, you must answer the 8 questions identified by Wimmer and Dominic. And in this part 2 revision, we'll be looking at how can you answer these 8 questions. Now, question 1 is the topic too narrow or too broad? As a researcher, when you carve out your research topic, or when you craft your research topic, you must look at it and answer this question. Is this topic too broad or too narrow? If the topic is too narrow, it's covering a small scope, which it will be difficult for you to generalize the data, then you expand the scope of the study to have a wider coverage. But if you realize that the scope of the study is so broad, then you also narrow it so that you cannot be so that you can be able to sufficiently generate data in that area. Now, if you answer this first question and address this narrowness and broadness of the topic, the second question is, can the problem really be investigated? Can the problem be investigated? It is one thing to come up with a research topic. It is another thing to also to see whether the topic can be investigated. So you must also answer this question. Looking at this topic, can this problem really be investigated? For example, if you propose a research topic and in that topic you want to have an interview with maybe members of Boko Haram, for example, in the north, operating in the northeast Nigeria. The question is, can you be able to carry out that in-depth interview with those members or those group of people? It may be challenging for you, which means realistically, you cannot be able to undertake the study. So you come up with research topics that you can realistically investigate them. So you answer question 2, whether can the problem be investigated? Then question number 3, can the data be analyzed? As a researcher, you must also look at your data and to see whether you can answer this question 3, whether the data can be analyzed. And when we talk of whether the data can be analyzed, you should be able to make sure that those software that you propose, those statistical applications that you propose in the study, you should have a good grasp or knowledge of them. When you have a good grasp or knowledge of those software, which means you can sufficiently analyze them. Maybe the use of SPSS, the use of Atlas Style, the use of NVivo, MassQDA, and many others. So can you use them? Now, after you have addressed this, then the next question is question 4. And question 4 is the problem significant? Now, when we talk about the significance of the study, we are talking about the imperativeness, the importance of that particular study, and how can you establish the significance of the study. Significance of a study is measured at 6 levels. It's measured at 6 levels. Number 1, significance to you as a researcher. What can you benefit from this study? You must establish or articulate that. Number 2, significance to the society. What is it that the society tend to benefit from it? Then 3, significance to the body of knowledge. How can that study contribute to the existing body of knowledge in that area? How can forthcoming researcher can be able to fall back at the findings of your study and they can be able to benefit from it? Then number 4, significance to theoretical framework. How can the study contribute its significance to theoretical framework? And the 5th one is significance to methodology. How can the study? There are different methods. What did you say to an in-depth interview or FGD? You must establish the significance of the relevance of that method to that study. And lastly, significance to policy makers. If you are able to establish your significance using these 6 parameters or this thing, you can be able to sufficiently address the issue of significance. Then number 5 is, can the result be generalized? Yes, when you're doing a quantitative study, the essence is to generalize the data. So, for example, if you're looking at the influence of social media on mass communication students, in private university in Lagos State, for example, and then at the end of the study, you use survey methods, and then you use questionnaire as an instrument for you to be able to generate data from the respondent, which are the students of mass communication in private institutions in Lagos State, for example, and then you discover that social media has a kind of negative impact on some of the mass communication students in private university. The selected private university, you can be able to generalize this data across other different private institutions in Lagos State, which initially were not part of the study, but because of you selected few private institutions in Lagos State, and the scope of the study is very large, and then you can be able to generalize your data across similar other private institutions in Lagos State. Now, the next question, number 6, is the cost and time that is involved in the study. Most often I always ask my students, when you want to embark on a study, I ask you this topic. It's not because of the topic is sounding so interesting to you as a researcher, but did you have the resources? Did you have the time to embark on this study? Will you be able to cover it within the stipulated time frame that is allotted to this study? Remember, if you are a final year student, there is a time frame that is allotted to this research for you to complete it. For example, so if you did not finish it within that stipulated time, that will amount for you coming back to undertake the study again. So the question is, this topic you settle on, do you have the time to sufficiently undertake the study? So you must understand this. And if you answer this question, which means you have the time, you have the resources, you have everything that is needed for you to be able to embark on this study, and for you to be able to analyze the data that you generate at the end of the day. But if you are not able, just drop the topic and look at a topic that you can be able to manage within that time span. So most of the time when you come to limitation, you see students attributing, saying that, well, part of the limitation of this study is resources. I don't have the financial support and all of that. But nobody imposed this topic on you. You select the topic, which means you have the resources. Number 2, some of them will start mentioning the issue of transportation as a challenge. That is not a limitation, because for you to settle on that topic, it means you have all the resources available, you have the time and everything. Some of them always even say that time is a limitation. No, it cannot be a limitation, because you already answered this question, the cost and time involved, and you are aware that you can finish it within the stipulated time, and the resources available within that context you can be able to use to undertake the study. And then the next question here is the plan approach appropriate? That is 7. Is the plan approach appropriate? Yes, that approach you are using, the methodology, the research design, some of the instrument, is it appropriate? Remember that methodology is the foundation of any study. It determines whether the study will stand or it will fall. So you must choose the correct method or approach that will help you to generate data. Now, the last question, which is question 8, is there potential harm to the subject? Now, remember, when you're undertaking a study, you must protect the integrity or the interest of those respondents or participants, because you cannot be able to expose them to danger. So, and that is why when you want to analyze your qualitative data, you develop codes like participant 1, participant 2, or P1, P2, and all of that will stand in place of a respondent or participant, so that you don't mention their names and expose them to danger. So you must take cognizance of not to expose your respondent to danger and all of that. So by the time you address this 8th question, which means you're good to go, you don't have any problem, and you can be able to carry out that study sufficiently, and you can be able to address the issue. So thank you very much for the part 2 class. Hope to see you in the part 3. Thank you very much for being part of